So my big focus right now is just making sure I have a good end to season 1, and I have about 90% in mind of what I want to do for season 2, and having a really good season 2 and just building readers, right? It does no good for me to market or think of a TV series or a movie if I don't have something good in the end for somebody to want to adapt. Otherwise, the best way that I could see is if all you wonderful listeners and readers out there go, hey, Rascal Boy and Marionette is so awesome. I am in love with that teddy bear, Sammy. I want one of my own. I want to be able to, I want to be able to walk through walls or turn invisible. That's pretty much it. Just word of mouth. There's nothing more valuable than your endorsement, and I tell my readers that all the time. I'm very thankful for them. I seem to have a very committed crowd, right? So I'm very thankful for them. Their recommendations and their reviews are worth more than a Super Bowl halftime commercial.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Living the Next Chapter. If you're going to join me on YouTube and watch the video for our podcast today, you're going to be spoiled with a background that is amazing. My author that's joining with me today, Nathan Wall, is with me, and we're going to be talking about some amazing artwork, a universe that he's building, maybe a movie or TV series. I don't know, but I would watch that. I'd be in for that, no problem. Nathan has got some amazing stuff to share with us. Very unique. I hadn't had anyone on in 250 episodes that does anything close to what Nathan does. So Nathan, welcome to the podcast. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
It's okay. So if you are watching the end, you're going to love this background, and you've sent over some pictures and stuff and some artwork from what you're working on. First of all, before we jump into all that, tell everybody where you are in the world and maybe a little bit about how all this started.
Well, I am from Dallas, Texas. I am a real estate developer in the Metroplex, and currently I am the author of the top fave Vella, The Adventures of Rascal Boy and Marionette, the artwork of which you can see behind me. And as of yesterday, it was a top 20 Vella. So the highest I've ever finished in a month has been, I think, like 131. Thereabouts. So if I could stay in the top 50, that would be amazing. If anybody is familiar with the platform of Kindle Vella, it is a serial fiction platform where I guess they call it books, but it's really not books. But whatever you're reading gets broken into small digestible episodes. And I'm using air quotes for those who aren't watching on video. Yeah. And you pay some tokens, you read some episodes, and you are entertained for a longer period of time than it would be in a traditional novel. And most of it is flooded with erotica and romance. So the fact that I have a science fiction, action adventure / young adult serial that is doing well and competing with these romance stories, I think is quite an accomplishment. Obviously, I would like to be in the top 10. That way, anybody who goes to Kindle Vella, right, whenever they get straight to the website, they see my serial picture right there. They don't have to go and scroll anywhere. And they go, oh, hey, what's this? It's in the top 10, and it gets featured. But I'm happy with where I am right now. And hopefully you guys check it out. If you've never done Kindle Vella before, basically, if you have an Amazon account, which I don't know who doesn't have an Amazon account at this point in time, it's, I've had a couple people go, oh, I don't have an Amazon account. I just kind of roll my eyes like, yeah, whatever. But if you have an Amazon account, it's free to sign up for. You don't have to pay anything. And then just to get started reading, Amazon will give you 200 free tokens. So if you use those 200 free tokens on Rascal Boy and Marionette, I guarantee you, by the time you run out of those tokens, you will be buying more of your own tokens to continue the story.
I love it. Okay. So there you go. That's a good sales pitch right there. So go and do that right now, and you can be part of this universe that you're creating. This is highly shareable as well. That's what I'm really excited about is that it feels kind of like an author version of a podcast in a way where you're doing episodes and kind of things, like you say, air quotes for episodes, but kind of like the story's kind of unfolding in front of you. You're not getting everything at once. So that's correct, right?
Yes, yeah, you don't have to sit down there and digest it. You can break it up. It is released a piece at a time. My dad complains whenever he reads it because he goes, "Oh, I just like to binge read. Why don't you just release it all?" And I'm like, well, that's not the fun of it, I guess, because not everybody wants to sit there and read 5,000 words and devour a novel like my dad will. But yeah, you can kind of pick it up as you go and enjoy it. I what I like about it is season one. So they break the Vellas into season. They're not called books. They're called seasons.
Okay, good.
Again.
Okay, yeah.
Right. And it's going to be longer than it would a traditional book. If anybody who's ever been in any writing group, they go, "Hey, I've written a 37,000 word novel. Is that long enough?" And you just kind of shake your head and go, "No, that's not a novel. That's a novella. It needs to be a little bit longer." But then you get these people who are really enthusiastic about their work and they say, "Hey, I have a 300,000 word epic," right? Well, good luck getting that to print because most publishers will not put the money forward to print the number of pages it's going to take to do 300,000 words. That's an insane amount.
Yeah.
So mostly if you have a science fiction debut novel, it's around 90 to 110,000 words. A young adult novel is maybe 80,000 words. Your romances are in the 70,000 word area. But the thing about Vella is I can take longer to develop the characters. It's the difference between going to a movie and watching Ethan Hunt, and you have to get everything you love about Ethan Hunt in Mission Impossible in 90 minutes, right? You've got to fall in love with the character. You've got to have, the main conflict. You've got to have the drama. And a lot of times, some things are kind of left on the chopping floor in order to make up for the time, right? Not everybody is going to go and watch a 3-hour Peter Jackson movie, right? Yeah. They want to get in and out. But the great thing about a Vella is because you're already going into it with the idea that it's going to be a season, you can approach it in a longer format and take more time to cultivate the characters and the relationships. Today I had episode 34 published in Rascal Boy, and in episode 33, something really big happens, right? And it would be one of those things that if it was a novel, it would be forced fed into the first 10,000 words of the novel, and it wouldn't have the same impact. It would be just like every other superhero origin story with a typical background. Like, oh, okay, it's sad, very sad person, blah, blah, blah. All right, let's get to it. But the fact that I could wait 80,000 words, right, and get there while still making the rest of it really interesting and suspenseful, really allowed the twist on Friday to have impact. And since Friday, I've had several hundred reads of the Vella, more reads than I've ever had in a 3-day span before. It's been insane. So I'm very happy, and I think it has a lot to do with the fact that I was able to take the time to build up to the big twist in episode 33. So
this feels like you should be featured at like a Comic-Con or something. Like people will be coming up just to like, I love your Vellas. I love your story. I'm here with you. I'm a big fan. Like I want to know more. Like I could see a whole community coming around this and sharing their insights together and doing all that. Do you have some kind of community element to your Vellas?
Not one that I would like. I have a website that I started, and I went ahead and paid for the Wix subscription so it doesn't have the little Wix tag on there, and it seems more professional. And I've started doing author interviews, and I've been doing Vella reviews, because it's the goal of every author to have their stuff read and to have it reviewed and to have some sort of validation, be it positive or negative, just so long as it is a thoughtful evaluation. So I've started doing that. One of the authors I am looking forward to interviewing and having a video back and forth with in the next couple of weeks is Poppy Orion. She writes a fantastic series called The Valmorian Chronicles, and it's very popular. So I'm looking forward to having her on. But that's about it for the community. I'm not very good at marketing myself or the story or figuring out all the keywords, because I do have a full-time business that I run, and I do have kids, right? So that takes up quite a bit of time between taking my daughters to gym and cheerleading practice, or going to hockey lessons with my son. I write this, either I have a nice day at the office where I have some free time where I can pump out 5,000 words, or I get up at 4:00 in the morning and I'm writing until 6:00 when it's time to get the kids up and start getting them fed, and ready for school.
Wow.
So I do most of my writing during those times, and it leaves very little time for marketing and getting my face out there, or I guess really getting my story out there. So that's why I'm very appreciative for something like this, and the fact that you were able to say, "Hey, come on board." And
I love it.
I was like, "Yeah, let's do this."
Nathan, I don't have anybody else doing this that I've met, so that's why I'm so intrigued by this.
Right.
And your characters are based, there's a connection there with who your characters are built around. Let's talk about that.
Yes. Okay. So I do have 3 kids, and the main characters in the story are based off of bedtime stories that I tell my children, or did tell my children. So don't take that and run out there and download a bunch of episodes and start reading it to your 5-year-old, because you will be rather disappointed when people start dying of radiation sickness, and it's dealing with
what is that, Daddy? Yeah.
It's dealing with issues of, should we have digital currency? Should people with powers be allowed to exist, or should we put them in camps? And it asks hard questions, things that kind of relate to current topics. So I took the bedtime stories that I told my kids and all these fantastic characters that I created, and I aged them up, and I made something that I hope my kids will find very interesting to read when they get older. And even if nobody else ever reads this and it never takes off and it doesn't become a movie or an Amazon Prime show, it would be very cool for my descendants to open up the Adventures of Rascal Boy and Marionette and go, "Oh man, I know the guy who wrote this.
Yeah.
And I know the people that it was based off of. It was based off of my great-grandpa. My great-grandpa is Rascal Boy." So the series is called The Adventures of Rascal Boy and Marionette. And my oldest daughter, she's now going into 9th grade. I used to tell her stories where her stuffed animals would come to life. And her favorite stuffed animal was one that I bought for her before she was born. I went to the University TCU, and I bought a little TCU bear. And TCU bear looks a lot like, if you can see the video, right above my shoulder here, you see the little stuffed bear. He's a little brown bear. That bear is based off of TCU bear. And so all these little stuffed animals, they would come to life, and they had, special strength and super speed, but they would solve mysteries with each other. And they would have these epic time travel tales and all these things. And so my daughter and I, we would go back and forth between watching Minute Physics and there's this other channel, I forget the name, but this guy would analyze characters and how their powers would work in real life. So we'd watch these science-based videos, and then we would have our own epic stories and whatnot. So my daughter knew all about time dilation and what a Dyson sphere was. And, here she is, 8 years old, doing these fantastic stories and going to school and telling her teachers about it. And I made a joke with her. I told her, I said, baby girl, one day you're not going to want me to come tell you these stories anymore. It's going to be boring. You're not going to want me to tuck you in. And she had big tears down her face, just like, oh, God, that's not true. That's not true. Well, when she was about 11, I go, hey, do you want me to come in and watch a video and tuck you in? No, Dad, I don't think so. I think I'm a little old for that. And I pointed at her. I go, aha. She just started crying. She goes, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know. And I was like, well, and so I gave her a hug. And I think that was the last time I went in and watched a video with her, was after she cried about that. So they say you never know the last time you will pick up your kid, right? Mm-hmm. And that was the last time I ever, I guess, really tucked her in, because she just got too big for it, and it was uncool to have her dad come in and do that.
Every dad listening right now, Nathan, is going, big pouty lip, like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
You're telling me this is real? Like, yeah. I have 3 grown children out of the house, and I'm like, you're getting me in the feels for sure. Yeah, it's going to happen one day. And I love that. I love the origin of all this and how it started. Like, where in your brain, how is your brain wired to build a world like this?
Well, believe it or not, I think it started with playing action figures with my little brother whenever I was about my son's age, right? I loved Batman, the animated series. I would watch Star Trek: The Next Generation with my dad. And so a couple of years ago in 2020, when everybody's locked inside their house and, just staying away from each other, my wife and I binge watched Star Trek: The Next Generation. And just watching it, I was just whisked back to being young and, in 1991 and watching the reruns and, falling in love with the characters of Data and Worf and all that all over again. But I think that's where it started. I would play action figures, and long before the days of the Avengers partnering together in the movies or Batman fighting Superman, my action figures had big epic crossovers and storylines that took several days. I would play with them, and I would leave them where they are. Like, this is the end of the scene. I've got to go do something else. And I would come back and I would resume the scene. And it got to the point where even, I'd have friends over that were playing with us or cousins. And I was kind of directing everybody and saying, oh, this is what Batman would do, and it's like, this person right here, they're going to die. No, they're not going to die. Like, yeah, they're going to die. And this person, you're going to think they're dead, but they're really going to come back. Mm. All right. And everybody else is just like, well, let's just take the toys and
bang them together.
Bash them together. And I'm sitting there trying to figure out a story, and then I remember going to my great grandparents, and just, not having anything to do with, because, they were in their 70s, and, there's always so many times you could go out to the garden, or you could go out to the, they were a part of some country club. So we drive like 40 minutes and I would swim around, but you're there for like, you're there for a whole week. And you're kind of bored. Yeah. And there's only so many Westerns you can watch. And so I just took a pen and some paper and started writing a story. And I wrote a story about some thieves that got caught in a flood, and they had to figure out how to get out of the flood. And the thieves turned on each other. And I was about 10 years old when I wrote that. And so it just kind of went from there. So it's just a never ending source of information flowing from my head. Most of the villains are based off of the stories I tell my son, right? You see here, you got Krampus. A couple years ago, they had the Krampus movie came out, and he was deathly afraid. And so Krampus is one of the bad guys for Rascal Boy. You won't see him in season 1, but I am planning a spin-off novella that I will release on KDP, and I want to release it around Christmas time. And it's called The Fight Before Christmas, and it will be Rascal Boy and Marionette versus Krampus, and there will be some other stuff that happens. So Santa exists in the world of Rascal Boy.
Mm.
You have that. He is a real person. Spoiler alert. Um, but all the characters are just based off of that. And then my youngest, I won't spoil anything for her, but let's just say she likes to wear an infinite amount of dresses throughout the day. So she's 5 years old, and I think right now she's on dress number 3 for the day, right? And she loves dragons and unicorns, and she has this thing called pink powers where she just sticks her hands out and says pink powers, and that's supposed to be shooting some sort of energy of pink at you. So her powers will have something along the lines to do with that. But the character that is based off of her and then in the Vella does not have powers yet. So
Okay, so in the traditional writing world, you have editors and blah blah blah, and your book has to go through a bunch of hoops to get out into the world for your Vella series. Do you have that kind of constraint, or can you just do whatever you want?
I could do whatever I want as to whether or not I want it to be good.
Yeah.
Which I'm not saying people can't write a Vella and go straight to the computer. There are people who can just write perfect prose with punctuation and not repeat words in a sentence and get it out there and it looks something like it could be published. I'm not one of those. My mind is very much focused on the story and the character, the big ideas. I think I'm pretty good at getting what I see in my head onto the paper and getting it conveyed. But it does need polishing. So I do have people. I do send it to beta readers. I do put it through Grammarly, which really helps because I can tell you what, I have hired people to do edits, and it gets back, and you're thinking it's good to go, and you upload it, and then you read it, and you're like, oh my God, there are 3 spelling mistakes that I have found, and I paid someone for it. So Grammarly is really good at kind of using its, because it is artificial intelligence in a way, right? Using its artificial intelligence to go through and figure out what you really meant. And sometimes it has good, concise suggestions for how to reword sentences. But I also have somebody that I send it to. He lives in Australia. He's a scientist, and he works for a big university there. And he kind of puts everything through the ringer. Like, hey, I have this idea for Rascal Boy to kind of break this law of physics, and this is how he's going to do it. Does this make sense? Is it plausible? And he kind of goes, yeah. And sometimes he goes, hey, Nathan, no one cares how Wolverine's mutant power works. Sometimes it just works. Just roll with it. And so sometimes you kind of just have that and just roll with stuff. But I do have some people that I send it to. I have beta readers that I send things to kind of gauge if things are landing emotionally. But yeah, so it does go through a process. Before I published any episodes, I break my season into 5 phases. I'm not one of those that just writes an episode and then publishes it the same day.
Yeah.
So before I launched, I had 15 episodes already done. And so day 1 of the launch on March 26th, I launched 6 episodes so that if you're one of the people that reads the first 3 free episodes that doesn't cost any coins, you could then immediately go straight into the first 6 episodes. And then I did episode 7 on that Monday. And then the next week I did every Monday and Friday after that. And I'm about to go on vacation. So I have switched for the month of July. Just episodes are coming out every Monday. But when I get back in August and whatnot, everything will go back to Monday and Friday. And in order to make sure I wrap up by the end of October, I'll probably do 3 episodes a week every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, because I want to have season 1 done by the time November rolls around so I can start getting people pumped for the Christmas spinoff. So,
okay, talk about the artwork. How are you doing this? Where is this coming from? This stuff is gorgeous. So let's talk about that.
Now, there's quite a bit of artwork. I think I sent you some. Maybe I don't know if you're able to pull it up later on.
Yeah.
So I had an idea in my head of what I want the characters to look like. And I kind of based it off of some clothes that my kids have. So, my son, he looks really good in red and he likes jeans and he likes to wear his hood. So I based that. That was pretty straightforward. I would draw it, and I'm not a great artist. Once upon a time, I could trace very well, right? But I draw something simple, and then I scan it. And there's this guy in Brazil who does actual comic work. He does freelance work, so he writes stuff for Wonder Woman, things like that. I sent it to him, and he messed around with it, and he would send it back, and I would say, hey, maybe change the eye shape, change this, change that, send other examples of things for him to kind of go off of. And then when he's done, I send it to a colorist who lives in the Philippines, and he colors it in.
Nice.
So that's how all the artwork came to fruition. And then recently I've been working with somebody who does AI artwork. I figured one of the problems that my Vella was having was it looks the artwork looked good, but it was a child Joey and Mary, and Joey's asleep on Mary's lap, and she's just kind of rubbing his head. And then you've got Sammy, the teddy bear. He's got a bunch of criminals wrapped up in a net, right? And it looks cool, looks good, but you go by and you go, oh, this is a cute little kid story. So I had an AI artist come through and give it a facelift, and so it looks much more serious, and it definitely evokes the tone of the Vella, the right tone, so that way people know what they're kind of getting into. And I updated the cover last week, and since then it has had a lot more reads. So I definitely think while this artwork was good, it was conveying the wrong message to people who maybe they didn't want to be entertained by a bunch of kids. And I say, Joey in the story is 10, Mary is 14. And if you think it's based off of kids superheroes, I just want to point out that John Connor in Terminator 2 is 10 years old, and he's kicking ass.
Yeah,
he's
fine.
He's hacking ATMs. The kids in Stranger Things, they're like in the 5th grade. The kids in It, they're 12 years old. So don't be put off by the fact it's based off of kids. Kids can do some serious things, and it can have the themes and motifs can be adult, right? Yeah. And in subsequent seasons, Rascal Boy and Marionette, they do get older. So the plan is for them in season 2 to be 4 years older than they are now, and then in subsequent seasons to be 4 years older than they are in season 2. So you will see them get older, and the tone does get much darker. One of the things I try to do is in the narrative, right? You get a sense of who the kids are by how they describe things. And Joey uses a lot of similes early on because that's how I think kids think. Because my son all the time is like, it's as hard as a rock, or it's as scary as this, all the time. Yeah. And so Joey thinks a lot like that. The other characters don't think the same way. They have more direct descriptions. But as Joey is exposed more to the world that I am creating and how dark it is, and how the good guys aren't always the good guys, right? The tone of the story changes. So you will kind of get that progression as Joey progresses. So
amazing. It's amazing. Okay, so for someone that wants to get into writing a Vella series, like any words of wisdom from your perspective for someone? Because again, the creativity behind what you're doing is amazing. I think this is so cool. And I can definitely, we talked about this, I can definitely see this into a movie form, very interactive. So how does someone get started? Where do you get on this path?
Right. Well, before I got started, because I had a lot of stories that I wanted to write, and originally this was going to be like a novella, and it was kind of straddling the line between middle grade and young adult. And so the earlier episodes you will find have a lot of they're teaching you things, right? So you learn what an electromagnetic pulse is, what a Faraday cage is, kind of how time dilation works. And it explains these things because the characters know what their dad goes through based off of stories their dad tells them at bedtime, right?
Yeah.
And their dad is awesome, man. He is the world's last remaining superhero. They know that people with superpowers exist, but they don't use them anymore, and most of them are bad. And there are no kids with superpowers, right? So that's where Joey and Mary are different. They are the world's only child paragons. So I started writing this. I was planning on doing just a series of novellas, a series of like 40,000 word novellas that I could easily pump out. But then I heard about Kindle Vella, and I was like, well, this is interesting. I don't have to have everything finished before I write, but I do want to have a lot finished. That way I have a backlog. So if I have a week where the muse isn't striking me, I'm not struggling to get something uploaded in order to meet a quota. So I heard about that. So I just started watching a lot of videos. So I watched some interviews by Audrey Carlin and some other authors who have the top rated serials on Kindle Vella. And I'm like, well, if their marketing strategy is working for them, then I'm going to roll with it, right? You don't want to reinvent the wheel. Maybe make some modifications where you can, right?
Yeah.
Put some extra tread on the tires for some grip on the road, but the basic idea of the wheel hasn't changed it since the caveman made the wheel.
Right.
And one of them said, don't do multiple Vellas, and certainly don't do multiple Vellas when you're starting out, because what you're doing is you're splitting your focus and you're splitting your reader group in all these different directions. And the key thing that you want for your Vella is to get the top fave crown, because that's the most valuable thing. Because other than having somebody share your story with their friends, the most valuable thing is that crown. And so I was like, all right, cool. I'm going to write one Vella. I'm going to push everybody towards the crown. You know, there's a lot of things that are involved with readers to get started up with Kindle Vella. It is not very user friendly. I don't want to muddy the water. I just want to focus them on the crown.
Yeah.
Read the story, unlock it. You get one crown a week. Use that crown on me. Don't use it on somebody else. Use it on me. Use it on your favorite story. I'm going to make you an awesome story. It's going to come out consistently. You're not going to have to wonder when the next one's coming, because that's a huge complaint that I was seeing on all the other Vellas. You know, sometimes writers, they'll upload, you know, five episodes at a time, and then they vanish, you know, for 3 weeks, and you're like, well, when are they coming back? People they don't have to worry. Every Monday and Friday, this thing's going to come out and it's going to be good. And I'm going to give it my crown. Right. And so I did that. And I launched the last week of March. So I wasn't top fave in March. But the first week in April, I had 10 episodes up and I was already top faved. Right. I made it to 180. And then I kept making it up the rankings in April. And I haven't been knocked out of the top fave since then. So I've been consistently there, and you only get a top fave crown if you're one of the top 250 stories. So obviously there's enough people who like the story that they keep giving it a crown. And I kind of have a litmus test for people who read. And this isn't just to get people to get on there and read a bunch of episodes before they get into it, right? You know, it starts with a James Bond type of opening, right? Where you have that big action scene and something's going on and it sets the stage. But I know whereabouts where if I can get a reader to about episode 7 or 8, they will continue reading the story and buying tokens. So, you know, just this past weekend to lead up to episode 33, which I knew was going to be huge. And, you know, every week on Monday, I get anywhere between, you know, 15 to 25 people. They will unlock the newest episode, right? I get a few opens, not as many new opens on Friday, but on Mondays, the new episodes, I typically get 15 to 25. And so I know, you know, maybe a third of them are giving me a crown every week. But I do know that people will open episodes behind that, and I can track my unlocks on the back end and see how many episodes new people are reading, and I can see when somebody's doing a sprint, right? When they've downloaded 6 episodes, and then all of a sudden I see five more episodes randomly out of nowhere on a Thursday are unlocked, right? And then after that, you see like another 10 are unlocked. You're like, okay, that's a new fan. That is somebody who has been converted. So I will do these little promo games where you kind of throw your hat into a ring, and somebody's got to pick a story, and they've got to spend X number of tokens on the story. I'm not doing it to fluff my bonus like a lot of people I get the sense are doing. Like they're trying to in a sense swap reads so everybody can get their reads up and get a good bonus, which they don't understand. At the end of the day, you're just kind of negating yourself out, right? Because you're just swapping 10 reads with this person's 10 reads or whatever. I'm doing it because I know if somebody picks my story, they will keep going, and 9 times out of 10 they do. And I think it paid off this past week. So that's when I started running some ads on, hey, you can sign up for Kindle Vella and you get the first 200 tokens free, my man. You can read with no skin in the game. If you don't like it, move on.
Yeah.
So.
It's amazing. Okay. And then I don't need to know numbers at all, but how do you as a creator of these, how do you get paid? Is it as people sign up and read and go along with the journey? Like, can you give us insight to that part of it?
Yeah. So anybody who is familiar with Vella knows about the bonuses that come out and how the bonuses have dwindled. At one point in time, early last year, bonuses were like in the thousands for people. They were telling how great life was, and it was kind of like the real estate market, right? Mm-hmm. Everything's great. Interest rates are low, and house prices are continually going up. They didn't see an end to it, right? But that kind of ended because more people got on board, and so the more authors you have, the more the bonuses are divvied up. So you do get a bonus, and you get told your bonus at the end of the month for the previous month, and then the next month you get paid bonus from the previous month, right? So in April, I found my bonus for April. I found that out in May, and I got paid my bonus from April and June, right? Mm-hmm. And then you share an even commission with Amazon on episode unlocks. So if somebody buys $5 worth of tokens and they spend all $5 worth of tokens on my story, I get $2.50 and Amazon gets $2.50. So we have an even split, and then there's the bonus. So
okay. So how do we go from here to a television series or a movie? How do you even think of that? How do you plan for that in the future? Talk a little bit about that.
Man, well, if anybody out there knows how to get your story to be made a movie, there was a joke on South Park that once upon a time, Netflix was just taking everything, right? Yeah. I don't know how true that is anymore with the fact that they cut down on sharing accounts and things like that. So my big focus right now is just making sure I have a good end to season 1, and I have about 90% in mind of what I want to do for season 2, and having a really good season 2 and just building readers, right? It does no good for me to market or think of a TV series or a movie if I don't have something good in the end for somebody to want to adapt. Otherwise, the best way that I could see is if all you wonderful listeners and readers out there go, hey, Rascal Boy and Marionette is so awesome. I am in love with that teddy bear, Sammy. I want one of my own. I want to be able to, I want to be able to walk through walls or turn invisible. That's pretty much it. Just word of mouth. There's nothing more valuable than your endorsement. And I tell my readers that all the time. I'm very thankful for them. I seem to have a very committed crowd, right? So I'm very thankful for them. Their recommendations and their reviews are worth more than a Super Bowl halftime commercial, right? And that is true for anything in life, right? You can see a TV for how great a car is or how wonderful some sort of mineral water is, but if your friend says, "Hey man, I've had this truck for 10 years. It is awesome. This company builds an amazing truck," or they say, "Hey, this water is delicious. I feel great." That goes a lot further than hearing some celebrity on the TV tell you how awesome it is.
Yeah.
So I guess you're sharing.
Yeah.
That is
threw
the
this up.
new cover
Look
of
at that.
Rascal and Marionette.
It's amazing. Like, I feel like they're going to start moving or just, and I love the bear on the shoulder as well.
Yeah, you see the bear with a little attitude as well, right? He's looking right at you. He's like, I'm about to break your arm. So.
Yeah, you don't mess with the bear. I love that. It's amazing artwork. And I think it's so unique, again, to have somebody like you come on and talk about your journey and getting this all out into the world. Yeah, so I'm just going through all the images. It's just gorgeous.
Yeah, so there you see she's got anything that's in a humanoid shape, she can animate and give it sentience. So it will have its own thoughts, its own feelings, right? There is one episode 8 is one of my favorites. So if there's ever an episode where I read to people, I always read episode 8, and it's from Joey's point of view, and Mary saves Joey because he has a very big Achilles heel in season 1. And she animates a lab skeleton to save him, right? And so you've got this. You see this cowboy right here, right?
Yeah.
They're these cybernetically enhanced cowboys. They're the rambling renegades. So they ramble when they talk. All their last name is Renegade, and they are just the biggest B-list villains in the world. They are such losers, right? But they come to the school. They're looking for trouble, and one of them tries to shoot Mary point blank with a machine gun, but Joey is running by. You kind of figure it out at the time that Joey's catching all these bullets, and then all of a sudden, the cowboy outlaw just goes flying through the wall, and the next episode picks up, and his arm is broken in 3 pieces, and he's sitting there screaming, right? But then Joey, because his powers are so, lack of a better word, powerful, right? He runs through what do you call it? When you eat a lot of food, right, but you don't gain weight. What is that called?
A metabolism?
There you go. His metabolism. Thank you. His metabolism is so overactive that it actually impairs his ability to move. Well, then Mary shows up with a lab skeleton to take care of the rambling renegades. And then at the end of the episode, the skeleton is so happy that he's helping out, and then the skeleton dies. And it really dies. And Joey's like, he's having to cradle this thing as it's very short lifespan. It already had all these emotions, and they don't stop once Mary's gone. So when Mary's no longer around them, her powers have a spatial limit, right? And so if she travels too far away, the thing that she animates can no longer move itself, but it is still self-aware that it exists, right? So then it is locked inside its shell. So you can imagine how kind of tragic that is to be granted life, but then when your creator is gone, this creator who you love and she's everything to you, but then she's gone away and out of your life, you can't move. You're just stuck there, right? And if her little sister, her 4-year-old sister, wants to come and dress you up as a princess and have a tea party with you, as Sammy tells her is often the case, then you just kind of have to put up with it. And you realize and you understand all the things that are happening to you while your creator is away, but you can't move or respond to it. So it's a little creepy, but it's also kind of fun because I don't know any other superpowers that are out there that revolve around bringing toys and things like that to life.
Yeah.
So
it's amazing. Okay, so Nathan, where do we go to stay up to date? A website or social media, where should everyone go to find more about your series?
The easiest way to find out more is to go to my website. It is authornathanwall.com. So spell author and then NATHANWALL, just like a wall.com. From there, you can get to any of the books that I've written. You can get to my Vella series. You can get to my social media accounts. I am active on Twitter. I am active on Facebook. I have an Instagram, but it's more personal. You can friend me on Instagram. I've thought about making it a professional one. I have a YouTube channel. I've uploaded some videos there. But like I said, most of my time is spent focusing on the writing. Eventually, I would like to spend more time focusing on the marketing and interacting with fans. I've recently joined a little clique on Facebook, and one of the authors, she writes a lot of stuff, and oh man, she is very good at making these little videos, these little shorts and whatnot. I think I can look. I don't know if she goes by her real name or her author name, but I'll tell you one of the things that she writes, and she's really, really prolific. I would like to be more like her, and more interactive. But she writes her name's Kate Seeger, so she actually puts it on her books. I'm looking. I'd like to be more like her in marketing. That would be great. But right now, I guess if you just want to find me and get connected, my website, authornathanwall.com, or you could go search for The Adventures of Rascal Boy and Marionette. Just put it in Google, and I pop up there. The Vella pops up there. At the end of each Vella, there's a little author notes where I can talk directly to the reader. And I always have my link tree or something in there that will point you to how you can find me elsewhere online. So
perfect. Nathan, this has been fun, and I love interacting with all the artwork and the story. I think this is a great gift idea as well, something you could share with somebody and fall in love with yourself. So I'm excited to see where this goes, and being early days with you to see this be developed. There's good things ahead, and I would love to have you back as things develop and things kind of progress, and give us an update in the future on this.
Yeah, I'd love to be back. I spent a lot of time listening to professionals and kind of honing my craft. Brandon Sanderson, I'm sure most of your listeners probably know who he is, but he has this thing, every tool in your tool belt should bring you from a cook into a chef, right? Learn to be a chef, don't be a cook. So I practice my craft, I hone it, I learn from others, and I try my very best to be a chef and not a cook.
There you go. And it shows. It shows. It's amazing. So everyone, please go check out all of Nathan's great works, all the links in the show notes, as always, and would love for you to interact with Nathan as well. Let him know. And,
definitely,
as the community is built and more opportunities to interact with you, make sure you sign up for that and get in Nathan's world, because you'll get some new superpowers just hanging around with this guy. So thanks, Nathan, for being part of the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, thank you for checking out the podcast today. So happy to have you here. If you are a past guest, if you are a current listener, which you are right now because you're listening to me and you're still here, thank you. Head over to our Facebook page. All the links are available through our website. Come and join our Facebook page and talk to the authors yourself. And I love having the authors come and join the page as well. We give you a special badge to identify you as a past guest. And we just want to welcome everyone to the Living the Next Chapter family. So come on over to our Facebook page and interact with other listeners. Ask questions of our past guests. Our guests are promoting their next project or giving you updates. All there in one spot on Facebook. All the information located on our website. Again, Thank you for being part of the podcast. Appreciate you being here and supporting our amazing guests every single episode. Thank you for being here. We'll see you in our Facebook group. See you on the next episode.